Good evening and welcome to tonight's show. What a show we got. What a show we got. We got things to talk about. You know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about Sublime. That's right. Sublime is back in a big, bad way. You know, I guess it's really true that you really can say never. I never thought I would see this again. We've already discussed it previously when they played a live show for the HR benefit. So I'm not going to retread here, but we haven't up to this point. We haven't really been made aware of what exactly the plans are for Jakob Nowell, Bud Gaugh, and Eric Wilson playing under the banner of Sublime. Up at least until this point, when a brand new, fresh Rolling Stone interview was just posted just today, telling us about their future intentions. So I think it's about time we discussed what the future of this band is going to be. And to help us do that is Rolling Stone itself. Thanks to the special incognito tab, we'll be able to open this sucker up, get past that pesky paywall. I don't know what it is about the paywall that bothers me so much, but it does. For news, I don't know. It bothers me. Bradley Nowell's son reveals why he is reviving Sublime at Coachella and beyond. And notice how it's interesting that it's not Eric Wilson and Bud Gaugh that they're saying, is reviving the name Sublime. It's Jakob Nowell reviving the name Sublime. That's interesting. And that, of course, has to do with, I guess some of the legal stuff behind it. In their first interviews, Jakob Nowell, an original drummer, Bud Gaugh, explained why they're bringing Sublime on stage again. There you go. I mean, it's not just Bradley Nowell's son. That's just the title there. I'm reading this blind, by the way. I have not pre-read it. Explain why they're bringing the Sublime name on stage again and how they're planning on recording lost Bradley Nowell compositions. That's right. They are going to record lost songs written by Brad. Now it kind of has me wondering, what are these songs? Because typically a lot of the stuff that Brad and those guys would write was, taken. There's a lot of, let's just say that there's a lot of source material that gets incorporated into that stuff. So I'm kind of curious. This is by Brian Hyatt, by the way, and it was published today, February 15th, 2024. There they are doing the rehearsal thing. Addiction is a family disease, says Jakob Nowell, the 28-year-old son of the late Sublime frontman Bradley Nowell, also the age that Brad was when he passed away. Rock and roll is a family disease, man. I seek to keep it in the family. Yeah, they say that a lot. Addiction is a family disease, and it's true. It's definitely true. Jakob bears an eerie sonic and physical resemblance to his dad, who was also 28 when he died in 1996 of a you-know-what, cutting his band's career short on the brink of superstardom. This April at Coachella, Jakob will make his official debut as the new lead singer and guitarist of Sublime, alongside his dad's original bandmates, drummer Bud Gaugh and Eric Wilson, bass player. It seemed like it was time for me to step into that role, Jakob says in his first interview about the band's revival. So they are without a doubt trying to sell this as the continued continuity of that original band, which is maybe something I don't quite agree with, but will embrace nonetheless, because I am just ecstatic. I've literally talked about it so many times in live shows, so I'm not gonna I really don't want to be redundant on it, so we don't have to sit and rehash over and over and over again. He says, I look at it like a custodial role. He continues, I'm not Sublime. My uncles Bud and Eric are Sublime. My dad never got to step on that stage, man. My dad never got to sing all those songs in front of an audience that big at Coachella of people who adore him and his sound and his message. if you were a father, what would you want? And I know what I would want to have happen in that situation. So I have to do what I have to do. You know, the more he talks about it, man, the more he puts it like that. Like I'm so on board with this. I really am. I really do. I don't have any reservations or qualms about it. I really don't. He's coming at it from a place of humility. He understands that he is a custodian. Something that Rome didn't seem to quite grasp the idea that he was literally filling a slot playing this music live. You know what I mean? Like he seemed to have kind of some delusions of grandeur, whereas Jake seems to just sort of acknowledge he's like, yeah, I'm not my dad, and this is a custodial role. I'm the only one who can kind of like fit this slot in today's day and age because his dad's not around. Like he's literally the only guy. I think that's a real humble thing to kind of say. And the idea that he wants to bring it in the right kind of way, in the right kind of appropriate way, in a way that he's able to, in a capacity that he is able to fill, makes sense. The band's songs have had a robust afterlife, most recently in the form of Sublime with Rome, a band that featured Wilson and frontman Rome Ramirez. Gaugh briefly played with them circa 2011. Let's clarify that. Bud and Eric decided to reform as Sublime, wrongfully so, but whatever. They did what they did. They decided to reform as Sublime and had Rome Ramirez take over in this frontman spot. And then Bud decided to leave his own band. So it's not like he played with them for a time, he was the third leg of that band and then removed himself for a variety of reasons. Gaugh briefly played with them circa 2011, but bowed out, feeling reluctant to tour extensively. Part maybe a little bit. I was raising a family, Gaugh says, and really needed to be there for my family. But that band, which recorded new music and toured extensively, is coming to an end this year, though confusingly enough, it still has some dates booked. And I'm so wondering, is Eric even going to show up? Like, at that point, are they going to get Tony from No Doubt, who's also playing Coachella, by the way? No Doubt, Sublime and No Doubt playing Coachella in 2024. That's pretty substantial, pretty awesome. I don't think he's going to do the dates. I also think that because Eric Wilson is involved, that maybe that's why Bud is so political, or the article is so political, probably by Bud and Eric's design, because Eric very much is involved with Sublime. I mean, Sublime with Rome exists because of Eric, or continued on because of Eric, I should say. It was formed in a shared mutual interest between Bud and Eric, but then Bud, jumped off, and Eric is the one who kept that going. So maybe that's why he's saying, yeah, I was raising a family. I didn't want to tour extensively. I'm sure that was true, but there was a lot more bad blood to it than just that, as we all know. We're not going to be playing Sublime with Rome songs, says Jacob. I would imagine not, who admires Ramirez's talent, but always had mixed feelings at best about the band's existence. I mean, rightfully so, right? And if Rome is smart, and maybe I was a little hard on Rome. I did a whole thing on Rome. His statement. I mean, he was fired, dude. He was straight up fired, man. He was fired from the band. It was just coming to an end, right? So it's kind of like, maybe I was a little harsh in that I felt that he should have been really grateful, because he owes his entire career to both Eric and Bud, and to not at least thank them in exiting, I don't know. But I could also, I guess I could appreciate being pretty salty that suddenly, his entire livelihood is challenged. Whereas, yes, he was doing his own solo stuff, but now he has to solely rely on it. He doesn't have the Sublime name to rely on anymore. But if all of that to say that if Rome is smart, he will take all those Sublime with Rome songs and continue to play them as Rome. And just, there you go. That he can eat off that for the rest of his fucking life if he plays his cards right. There's an emotional aspect. This is Jacob talking about his mixed feelings about Sublime with Rome and Rome Ramirez. There's an emotional aspect that I want to make known to people I had to deal with growing up. I remember being 14 and chilling in my friend's basement, and we're all listening to music and smoking weed. My friend put on a Sublime song, and I was like, haha. I thought he was kind of messing with me. And I look over, and it's Rome singing it. And it was weird. It hit me like a gunshot. It didn't feel right. Yeah. I mean, like, that has got to be a really, really weird feeling. You know, this is my dad's band. These are my dad's songs. Here's a guy calling himself the singer of Sublime, going out there and playing my dad's songs. You know, the new Sublime began in December at a benefit for Bad Brains HR, who has been battling health issues. It wasn't officially billed as Sublime. It was just kind of like these guys coming together. The first time jamming, says Gaugh, I just closing my eyes, it was bringing me back to the first early days in Brad's dad's garage. It fit together really nice. The show was sloppier than Jakob hopes their real gigs will be, but they all saw the potential for something bigger. And to an extent, I mean, isn't that a little bit what Sublime was? They were always sloppy, man. There's always a sloppy grace to them. And so it's kind of apropos that it was Coachella will just be the beginning. They expect to play other festivals this year and continue on with a modest number of shows each year for the foreseeable future. I fucking love that. They're not going to saturate the market. They're going to play shows. They're not going to go out. It's not like, hey, we got to go out and tour 200 dates out of the year. He's got Jakobs Castle going on. I mean, they all got their lives going on. You know, Bud still has kids that are, you know, teenagers at this point, right? He's got his family is still, you know, he's still got a family. That totally makes sense. Like, hey, we're going to do the Sublime thing, but it's not going to take over our lives. We're just going to kind of, you know, have a modest number of shows. I love that idea. For the foreseeable future, it's like, hey, we're not putting an expiration date on it. We're just for the foreseeable future. Super relaxed. I would never have expected this, Gaugh adds. I'm still waking up and going, is it real? Is this just a dream? There are no plans to write new songs for Sublime. Jakob, previously the singer and bassist in the band, he's not a well, I guess whatever. Previously the singer and bassist in the band Law, saves his own inventive songwriting for Jakobs Castle, an eclectic solo project with a debut album coming out in April on Epitaph Records. Instead, the band plans to find ways to release new music that draws from a giant treasure trove of unreleased Bradley Nowell compositions that their former sound engineer held on to for all these years. So that's the Miguel. A shame they can't say, hey, Miguel, it's fucking Miguel. You don't have to say I feel like that's Bud always trying to fucking minimize. I don't know if it's Bud, but you know, just I watched that Sublime documentary and he's like, I felt like they just really minimize Miguel, you know, not Jakob. I'm not saying Jakob does that. I just feel like he's not given a large enough credit. And the fact that he has held on to the archive for as long as Miguel has. And I feel like that's the way to move forward, because ultimately Bradley Nowell is Sublime. And the only way you're going to do anything like recording wise is if it involves Bradley Nowell. And that involves having his son there and having his, you know, a treasure trove of unreleased compositions makes such sense. This is so tasteful and appropriate. The only thing I hope and wish that Miguel, I'm sure he has to be. I hope that Miguel is amply involved in the project. I really do. I hope he's involved in as the engineer and producer and whatever else. He says there's Bud Gaugh says there's a plethora of stuff, says Gaugh. Anytime we had a tape machine, it was constantly recording. Jakob has no memories of his father, and his path hasn't been easy. His own drug problem started when he was just 12 years old. I've been at the depths of my addiction, says Jakob, who's been sober for the last 7 years. I've been on the bathroom floor throwing up blood and convulsing. The fact that me and my dad have that in common, it's a pretty trippy story. I think it allows me to connect with the music on another level. Jakob describes a chaotic white trash, quote unquote, upbringing that left him feeling alienated from the hedonistic SoCal lifestyle his dad exemplified. For years, too, listening to his dad's music was too emotional to bear. But he found his way to the Sublime sound and ethos after realizing that he liked all the same music they did: punk rock, reggae, artists like Barrington Levy, 90s hip hop. You know, it's funny too, man. You know, it's like super funny about all this. It's like, even when he was doing law, even when he was doing his own music, whether he was trying to go, when he was trying to go in a completely different direction, he still sounded like Sublime adjacent. He was still writing, and quite clearly the influence is so thoroughly ingrained in his blood that, you know, it can't be removed. You can't deny it. You cannot deny it. You know what else you cannot deny? Stickers. And you know what kind of stickers we use here on the Frumess channel? Riot Stickers. Let me tell you all about Riot Stickers, and then we will be back with more Sublime, talking about the future of Sublime. Ooh, ooh, we've got a new sticker deal at Riot Stickers. That's right, folks. We are starting a brand new promotion here at riotstickers.com, and it is for die cut stickers. What exactly is die cut? What does it mean? It's time for Sticker Science 101. Basically, you got your regular stickers, right? But we introduce a new element with the die cut sticker. Basically, what you do with a computer-guided scalpel. That's right, computer-guided scalpels. Isn't that a great band name, Computer-Guided Scalpel? I love it. You can cut the exact shape of whatever your design is. So whatever you got going on, whatever its borders are, there's no borders, there's no limitations. You take your computer-guided scalpel and you just cut around the edge and you get, voila, a die-cut sticker. So in addition to the UV coating that protects from the sun, in addition to being printed on vinyl, which makes them weatherproof and waterproof, you can now have the exact shape that you want. Well, you always could, but you couldn't for a price like this. For $69, you can get 200 die-cut stickers. There are some people out there who are die-cut fanatics. They need die-cut stickers in their lives. You are not going to find a better deal than this. Now, there's only one place you're going to find this incredible die-cut sticker deal for $69. 200 stickers for $69. And that's if you go to the link down in the description. You go to riotstickers.com/Frumess. That's riotstickers.com/Frumess. What? Sharpie Riot, have you lost your mind? Have you lost your mind? These prices are insane. These prices are Crazy Eddie level prices. If you know Crazy Eddie, then you might be old. You might be older than me. You're probably way older than me. You click on the link, you do the thing, and you get your die cut stickers. Do not hesitate to get this deal, okay? And without further ado, Future Jeff, roll the 60-second Riot sticker commercial. Go, do it.
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too. Posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads, we can print on shirts. We can print on hats. We can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality. Quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support, great customer service, and so much more. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
And that's a promise. Okay, let's keep taking a look here. So how did this all come to pass? What was the turning point? Because, you know, in the past, Jakob had, you know, kind of really sort of gone in the opposite direction. He was exploring, he was trying to move away from anything that sort of resembled Sublime. I don't think actively, but just was not I don't know. It seemed like there was an effort to keep away. And I respected that too, man. I was all about that. I was like, whatever he was doing felt really original to me. And there's nothing worse than like when someone is just trying to dial in a desperation. We talked about Rome's desperation in writing a song called All I Need, when there's a Sublime song called All You Need. I mean, just it's a terrible song, man. I'm sorry. It's not a good wow. I'm sorry. I did not mean to disparage someone else's art in that kind of way. Publicly, I try to keep away from doing that. It happened. It came out of my mouth. Did not mean to do that. Not my cup of tea. Let's just leave it at that. Jakob made the final decision to embrace his dad's legacy after a tour date with Jakob's castle in Petaluma, California last year. That's where Brad died. Not for the first time, he made a sacred pilgrimage. Not for the first time, he made a sacred pilgrimage to the Phoenix Theater there, where his father played his final gig just before his death. While he was there, he happened upon a recovery meeting filled with punk rock locals. I had to stand up, Jakob recalls, and be like, yo, this is who I am, and my dad died from an OD the last night he played here. And here you guys are 28 years later having a meeting, all of these cool people who probably love the style of music that my dad did. And in that moment, he adds, I decided that this is what I was supposed to be doing. So it's like at the age of 28, he came to it on his own terms. I think that's pretty tremendous, man. He came to it on his own terms, in his own way. Meanwhile, a Sublime biopic is in the works with Ozark creator and former Rolling Stone writer Chris Mundy working on the screenplay. I just don't want the movie to be cringy, says Jakob, who definitely has no interest in playing his dad on screen. I think that would be really, really weird. I think there's a kissing scene with my mom's character, he adds. So that would be a little too Oedipal, like Oedipus Rex, like the dude who killed his father and married his mother. Pretty crazy stuff. That's what happens. That's what happens in Greek tragedies. I mean, the story of Bradley Nowell is its own Greek tragedy. I'm sure Jakob would not argue with that notion. But I really think it's amazing how, like, we've talked about before the idea that maybe you grow, this guy, he grew up probably his whole life saying, hey, when you're old enough, you're going to play your dad's songs. And I'm sorry, I have to pause for a second. Mushroom Leg said, hey, Jeff, saying hello, watching The Greasy Strangler, one of my favorite films. I was strangled by The Greasy Strangler. There's a picture of it to prove it. Watching The Greasy Strangler with the sound off in this. Can I tell you why that's so great? Mushroom Leg, I want you to know something. When things really started to lock down in 2020, the year 2020, if you know what I'm referring to, the thing that you can't say on YouTube. I don't know. Can you say it now? Maybe you can say it. When things started to really, when we were all locked down, I started doing this weird thing. I was like, I'm going to watch two movies at the same time that have probably never been watched before at the same time. So like I was watching like Reanimator and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome at the same time. I also watched The Greasy Strangler and Grease 2 at the same exact time on two different screens. I think I had the sound off for Greasy Strangler and I was listening to the soundtrack of Grease 2. And it was a really bizarre sort of juxtaposition. And so I really appreciate that you took the time to mention that, to say that. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what they do, especially with a band like Sublime, especially with the idea of taking things and building on top of them and rearranging and remixing. Imagine, it only makes sense that stuff that Bradley Nowell did that's incomplete or unrecorded or just sitting and collecting dust on a hard drive for Miguel to dust it off and to have the band come in and for them to sort of rework everything and give new life to material that, that there's clearly a fervor to hear now. I mean, people want to hear this stuff. I wanted to hear this stuff. There's a great interview with Miguel talking about how he was talking with the guys from Napster who are big Sublime fans, and this conversation about hosting the entire archive, digitizing it and hosting it somewhere, and creating sort of a subscription service so that people can access this incredibly rich archive of material that only like the diehard fans like can't get enough of, and that there's just hours and hours of this stuff. And it was before the Spotify model came out, and that's what Miguel was saying, and that nobody could see it, nobody could envision it the way that it would work now. Now it would work in an incredible way. In regards to this biopic, I'll be honest, I don't really want a biopic. I don't. I don't think it's going to be. I mean, I'm not really too stoked about it. What I would want is, like I said, I watched that Sublime documentary from 2019 that got shelved. I want a Sublime documentary or a Sublime miniseries that really, really tackles the history, like really looks at that band and really just runs the gambit of interviewing everybody, and just sort of like a 4-part music series or a 3-part series on Netflix. That would be so fantastic. I don't need a biopic. No one's ever going to look like Bradley Nowell, man. It is going to be cringe. He's right. It's going to be kind of cringe. And, just the notion of like trying to go for the biopic, don't give us a biopic. Give us a real proper documentary that really tells the story. The biggest problem with the Sublime documentary from 2019, there were a lot of problems, but the biggest one of all was that it ends right after Bradley passes away, and it does not detail. You needed a half hour more to really detail what happened, the aftermath of everything, because that's what gives the story even more impact. That's what turns the story into a Greek tragedy. The idea that this guy never got to see the incredible success, that he was right. Not that nobody was doubting him, saying that you're not good and you shouldn't be doing this, but the idea that he so thoroughly believed in his music and what he was doing, and that the whole world would too, and he would not live to see it. I mean, there's no greater crime. And it was a crime that he had perpetrated on himself. He did that to himself, unfortunately. And that's also part of the disease of addiction. That's part of what happens. That was, much like going back to the idea of Oedipus, it was he sort of was propagating a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's what it was. He was writing songs like Pool Shark, and then, true to life, fulfilling it. And I think that people have sort of deified him in this romantic kind of way as this tortured artist. And, the reality is he wanted to live the life that he was writing about. And that was not the life that he had come from. And it's just, the whole thing is sad. But, the idea that he left a son, and that son is incredibly talented and wants to honor his dad in the right kind of way, in a tasteful way, all of them do, and getting Eric on board for it too. It just fucking makes sense, man. It just makes sense in so many ways. So I'm really stoked about it. What do you all think about this? Let me know. That's all I got tonight. Real quick, real fast. We'll see what the future's looking bright. It's so bright that I got to wear shades in a dark basement at night in the middle of winter. How about that? So without further ado, peace, hair grease, and we'll see you next time.